Hey there, viewers, and welcome back to Planet Cryos. I want to show you exactly how to update your BIOS using a thumb drive for any of the modern motherboards. So stick around. Alright, so to the right of me is my built PC, and if you've been following me, you'll know I built this a little, not too long ago, within the last year. And what I want to do is go ahead and update the BIOS. When I first got it, I had to update it. Currently, right now, it is running BIOS version 1003. I don't recall the new version, but there's like 2 or 3 newer versions since then. It is allowing for the 11th gen Intel chip to run on this motherboard. I don't have one. I have no plans on getting one. But I'm going to go ahead and update for security reasons and any other reason. So I want to show you a step-by-step on exactly how to do that. I'm going to do a screenshot on showing you how to do that. But what you're going to need, there's a few different ways you can do it, but the way that I'm going to show you is through using a thumb drive. And this particular thumb drive, I have a label maker, and I just put BIOS on it. And this is my way of just knowing that this is the only thing that I use to update my BIOS for my computer or my family members. I have 2 family members that I take care of their computers. So this is the only thing that I'm going to use to show you how to do that. In order to do this, you got to go into your BIOS for the update. This does have the capability of doing a flash BIOS. Since I'm not 100% familiar with it, I'm not going to show you how to do it. And I don't want to do anything to my motherboard. It's probably easy, but I just don't want to do it that way. So we're going to do it the old-fashioned way, so to speak. And I want you to join me. I'm going to go to my screenshot right now. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to go ahead and go to the manufacturing site for your motherboard. So in my case, I have an Asus ROG Strix Z490 e-gaming motherboard. And once you get to this page, really for whatever motherboard you have, just type in Google pretty much that exact, whatever the board is. And usually the first option is the site for support for that board. Now when you get to the site, it should look fairly similar to this. I've worked with Gigabyte before, and it looks pretty similar to this. Now what you want to do is you want to go to the support tab down here, not the one up here. That's the support for the main site. This one's the support for the current motherboard that you are on. So you want to go ahead and click on this support tab right there. And now you're going to get an option. Now Gigabyte's a little different. Gigabyte, you'll scroll to the bottom and usually you'll find the BIOS versions. Usually you got to expand it. But for this one, you just go to drivers and tools, and then you go over here and you click on firmware, BIOS and firmware, excuse me. And now you get the BIOS, the latest one is right here, so 2301. Now you can go to see all these downloads, and you can see all the previous versions. This is the version I have right here. I have the 1003, which this is the release date for that, it appears to be. So we have 1, 2, 3 versions newer. This is September 8th, so this is about a month and a half old. So this is the version that we want, and what we're going to do now, take note of this. Now this is before running the USB BIOS flash tool. Please rename the BIOS flash this right here, the SZ490E.cap, using the BIOS renamer. Now, I don't believe you actually have to do this if you're going into the BIOS and updating the BIOS through the BIOS. It's only if you're using the flash tool. However, if I'm wrong, I may be wrong on that. But regardless, the last time I updated the BIOS, I went ahead and renamed this anyway, and it worked perfectly fine. So that's what we're going to do. So what we're going to do is download it. Click the download button. And you'll see right down here, it is already downloaded into a zip folder. So now what we're going to do is go into our downloads, and we have our download right here. We are going to extract the files into this folder. We're going to open up the folder. Now you can put this as viewing. Let's see here. If we want to view and we want maybe a list, you can go to details so we get the file size. So this is the renamer right here. I've never used that, so it's kind of interesting. I suppose we could try it, but I just went ahead and renamed this. So this is the cap file, and it's the largest file. So the largest file, generally speaking, and I believe even up to this date, always the largest file is going to be the file that you want. You do not need this other file to put it on the flash drive. You just don't need it. So what we need to know is what to name it. So we need to name it that right there. And we don't need the parentheses. So we're just going to take that. And then we're going to, I gotta get rid of this. And get rid of that. Yeah, thing's not working here. And then we got this, yeah, it's the renamer, BIOS renamer. So let's try this. Yeah. So this file has been renamed to ECAP. So ECAP, to use the BIOS flashback, copy to the root of your USB flash drive. So it's copy SZ490 E.cap to the root of your flash drive. Interesting. Okay, so apparently it renamed it. That's how. That was actually really simple, guys. I can't even believe how simple that was. Now I renamed it manually last time. So okay, we're done. So now what we need to do, our next step, is take your flash drive that I just showed, any flash drive, almost any flash drive size you want. I mean, you don't go crazy. I wouldn't go above like 32 gigs or something. I don't know if some of the BIOSes recognize above that, but anything 2 gigs, 4 gigs, 8, 16, all those work. I would stay below 16 if you could. So I have a flash drive here. I'm actually kind of unsure what the size is, but we can find out. I may even have a BIOS still on it. And yes, actually that's the old one. See that? So that is my old one, and that's the date that I did that. So I didn't even delete this. So you can see exactly what that was. So we're going to go ahead and delete that. And then we're going to take this other one and just copy it over to here, to our BIOS flash drive that we're going to be using, and now it's on this flash drive. All right, so now we can close both of those windows. And so there's a couple of different ways you can get to the BIOS. One being shutting down the PC and just hitting the delete key or the F2 or whatever, F12, whatever key it is to get into the BIOS. That's what you're going to have to do. Or this other option, I haven't done it many times, so let's see if I can navigate to it. Basically, you come in here, you go to your start menu, go to update and security. That was settings, and then update and security. And then we go to, let's see, I believe it's recovery. And then you go to advanced startup. So you can do the restart now. And that's what you would click on. Now, if I do this, I'm going to lose my screenshot. So what I'll do is I'll try to get it on a camera exactly what I'm doing here, and that way there's no confusion. So I'm going to stop the screen recording right now. Alright guys, I don't know how good you're going to be able to hear me with the mic pointing in the wrong direction. However, I'm going to show you right here. I'm just hand holding the camera, and we're going to click on the restart now and demonstrate this is a different way you can get to it. Okay, so you have a few different options here. You can continue to Windows 10, you can shut off your PC, use a device like a USB network connection or Windows Recovery DVD, or troubleshoot. So we want to go to troubleshoot. Then we're going to click on advanced options. And let's see, then we got startup and repair, fix problems, keep Windows loading. We have startup settings, change Windows startup behavior. We have the command prompt. We have uninstall updates, UEFI firmware settings, change settings in your PC's UEFI firmware. Then you have system restore. It's like a restore point that the Windows should be automatically doing, depending on how frequent either you set it up or usually comes with. So this is the one we want right here, is UEFI firmware settings. So we can change our settings on the UEFI. It's really called the UEFI, not really a BIOS anymore, but everybody's familiar with BIOS. So we're going to restart into the BIOS, using Windows 10 to get into the BIOS versus manually restarting it and just hitting a key rapidly. So in some ways this is actually a little slower. Oh, BIOS came up over here. Okay, so I'm going to try and, let's see, set this camera up so I don't have to hold it anymore. Hang on a second. Okay, so that's about the best I'm going to be able to get it. We're not doing a screenshot anymore. We are just using the camera. Zoom in a little bit and try to get you the best thing. So what you're going to do once you get to here is just go ahead and, since you left your, if you left your flash drive in, then that's fine. Now we're going to go up to, I believe it's Tool, and we got the Easy Flash Utility for mine, 3 utility, and now we can see it's right here, and that's what we want. So we're just going to click on that. It says, do you want to read this file? You're fine to read the file. That's not going to hurt anything. If it's the wrong file, all modern motherboards should not do anything. Alright, so you want to read it. If I click yes, give it a second. Alright, do you really want to update the BIOS? BIOS information, it's giving you the version that we're going to and the date. So that's exactly what we want. And we go yes. And now you can see down at the bottom we have a progress bar. Do not shut the power off at this point. Alright? Once you get to this point, don't mess with it. Don't click on anything. Just let it go. Let it be. It will complete on its own. Alright, so you can see that the progress bar is starting. And that took about 30 seconds for it to start. You have to be patient. Be patient. Okay, there you go. And the system is rebooting itself. So if we just be patient, you could have clicked OK. I didn't even get the chance to do that, but it's rebooting itself now. Okay, so it's got a message actually. So we got a message on the screen. BIOS is updating. The firmware. Do not shut down or reset the system to prevent system boot up failure. Alright guys, so a couple things that I want to point out. One is, as you can see, it did update the BIOS perfectly fine. My screen is on, I am at my desktop, so we are all good to go. I am going to turn it off right now because it usually interferes with the camera and the light source, so we're going to go ahead and turn these off just to save that. Now, there is something I want to mention because you got to be very patient with these things. So what you saw there a moment ago is it going through its stages, and it needs to update the BIOS. It needs to first the firmware, then it had to update the ME, then it had to update the BIOS itself, and then at the very end of all those reboots. Now this thing rebooted probably 10 to 12 times. I'm not kidding. 10 to 12 times for it to get through all that. And then at the end, it will ask you, it'll post, okay? And it gives you options, like 3 different options. You can go into the BIOS, just press enter and it'll go right to the BIOS and you can do what you want. You can press F1 to load the default settings for the BIOS on the CPU, or you can press like F3 to optimize everything and unlock all the limits. Now, I don't do that. I don't even turn XMP on. I just don't need it at the moment. So I just do F1. It brings you into the BIOS. Then you just gotta hit exit, save without changing anything, and boom, you're good to go. So that's how you update the BIOS. It's a little bit involved, but it's still pretty easy. It's mainly just sitting back and watching. The hardest thing is probably going to the website and finding the right thing and downloading it, and then making sure you change that file name if you have to. You just make sure when you're looking at the BIOS that you read all the description stuff, because sometimes you have to have occasionally you have to have a previous BIOS. So like there's 3 above mine. Maybe I had to have the second to the latest BIOS in order for the latest BIOS to actually work. Sometimes I've seen that before. So you just read the BIOS, make sure there's no no notes over to the right-hand side there that states otherwise. So with that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. And I want to thank you for watching. If you watched till the end, that is awesome. And don't forget to subscribe, click that like button, share the content, and comment down below if you wish. Or if you have any questions, I will be glad to try and answer them for you. So until next time, guys, take care.